Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel, and today we are back with a final review and thoughts of the Nvme tracker. It's been a couple weeks now since I started using it, and today I'm going to tell you guys about my pros and cons with the software. At the very end of the video, and there will be timestamps down below, I'm also going to walk you guys through how to start it up and set it up the way that I do, as I've received multiple requests for settings and things like that. So I'm going to show you guys how to tweak it using the Nvme tracker as well as with OpenTrack to get the best results that hopefully will make you guys happy. So stick around and find out more. If you are interested in acquiring any of my Overkills tutorial guides from Microsoft Flight Simulator, or simply interested in supporting the channel, please consider joining us on Patreon. Patreon subscribers level tier 2 and above have access to all of my guides, as well as any future releases that come down the road. Patreon link can be found in the description below.
Overkill simulations, watch us as we fly. Overkill simulations, a thrill will never die in the heart.
All right, you guys, so let's just jump right into it. Like I said, today we are doing a final review of the Nvme tracker. Nvme tracker is a absolutely phenomenal head and eye tracking software that uses nothing more than the webcam that I'm actually talking to you guys on right now, which for reference is a Logitech HD 1080 Pro stream. 1080p Pro stream is what I meant to say there. And it can use any webcam, whether it be a webcam that's attached to your laptop, any webcam you have lying around at home. It can use your cell phone as an option as the camera source, all kinds of really cool stuff. And again, it can do both eye and head tracking. Now, let's start with the first part. In my previous review of this product, I was asked to also review some freeware products to do a comparison. I am not going to be mentioning the names of those freeware products, as I feel like because I am very much so pro Beam, I do not want to put those developers down or seem like their efforts are fruitless. That's just not the case. I do recommend, however, that you definitely try some out on your own to see if it's something that you like and enjoy. However, I will be talking about my experiences with the freeware software. Although they absolutely got the job done, there were quite a few cons that I did not like. And this also, I want to specify, this is my personal opinion on all of the softwares. If you guys have better results, by all means, free is always going to be better than anything that is payware for your pocketbook. Okay, but if you are someone who doesn't mind a little bit extra, a little bit of money put into something, I do recommend Beam. So first, to give you guys the comparisons, what I found with the two different softwares that I used. One of them was on my cell phone, and one of them was a freeware that was a desktop app. The desktop app, I will absolutely say, worked better than the cell phone version. I found the cell phone version to be a little bit more delayed. I would turn my head in about half a second, nothing crazy, truly nothing crazy, nothing game breaking, but about half a second later is when I would see it. And when I'm looking around the cockpit or was looking around the scenery, it got a little weird. It was sort of like when you have really bad performance in virtual reality. You'll turn your head and then the picture will sort of follow, and it was really weird. It was an odd feeling. It was like, for any of you car guys out there, like when your pinion arm is worn out on your steering column and you go to turn the wheel and then about half a second later the car turns. It was really goofy. And I don't like that. I like the rapid response. The other thing I will say on the freeware product that I tried, again, you guys, there's only a couple, especially for desktop apps that are free, that can do the eye tracking. It will not take you long to find them, I promise. It's going to be one of the most popular ones. I'm just not specifying the names. I'm sorry. I don't know. I feel icky because of how pro Beam I am. So with the eye tracking, I didn't find it near as accurate as what I'm seeing here. Now, one thing I do want to show you guys is you guys can see so far what the lighting system is. Well, that's because I've got two display lights, which, by the way, actually forgive the bad lighting on the webcam. But here's how I play what you guys would see typically. I have a ceiling fan that has a light on it, and it's almost always on when I fly. But here is what you guys would actually see, or what typical environment that I use. So you can see it gets pretty dark in here, okay? And that light is a yellow light on my ceiling fan. It is not a white light, okay? So it's actually very dim. And I'm looking at the camera, and the camera is actually making things a little bit brighter than what I see in here. The room is pretty dark, okay? Now, I have also turned all of my lights in here off before. And I will tell you that with Beam, now I am about an arm's reach. Okay, I'm a big boy. There it goes. Okay, I'm about an arm's reach away from the webcam. Let's turn these back on. Let there be light. And I will say that when I turn, if I don't have anything, I've got two displays. I've got the one that's directly below the webcam, which is my center display, and I've got one over here that's on. I've actually got a third one over here. I just never use it because I've got the VR plugged in. And I've got my big one back there on the desk that are all plugged into the same video card. So I had to sacrifice Lefty over here. So usually if I'm flying around by myself, or especially if I'm in like DCS World or something like that, I don't usually have anything on the right monitor. And the reason why I'm specifying that is because that's also going to reduce the lighting that is being cast from the monitor. So the monitors have a big play in that too. And these are 28-inch monitors. Again, you guys saw about an arm's length away. So I will say that when the room is completely pitch black, okay, and I have the right monitor off, I have on occasion, past about here, I will see that the camera will sometimes do a little jittery. It gets a little bit difficult for it to even track my head. But in this kind of a situation, or as long as that ceiling fan is on, okay, as long as the light on my ceiling fan is on, I never lose tracking. I haven't lost it once. The other test that I have done is I've actually got a second webcam. It looks like it fell off. Cool. But there's a second webcam that I actually bought after buying Beam. Here's the other catch that I want you guys to know on how dedicated I really am to this software. This is a $50 webcam. I bought a second one for my monitor behind me. And I stood all the way back by the door, which is about 8 feet difference. And the only thing that I had to do with the Logitech camera, I had to zoom it in order for it to not lose tracking. But once I zoomed in the picture, it had me. So that was pretty slick. So on the freeware apps, like I said, yes, they were functional. Yes, for many, I could see where they would probably work just fine. I think it really comes down to what kind of quality you're looking for. I do not think that the freeware apps have the quality of the payware app like Beam. And certainly doesn't have the functionality of, say, the Track IR. And we'll get to the Track IR here in just a minute. So moving on from the freeware apps, I just wanted you guys to know that, yes, I did try a couple. The cell phone one, by the way, I didn't like at all. I thought it was laggy. I thought it was choppy. And this is a Samsung S23 Ultra. It is a relatively new phone. It has an extremely fast Wi-Fi card in it. It's a good one. Okay. And my Wi-Fi router, for example, is right behind the camera. So, I mean, it's in here. All right. So now that we've talked about the free apps, let's talk about comparison to hardware. Track IR hardware. I want to specify this. There is a fantastic developer of a very, very good Track IR headset, which, of course, if I wasn't sitting in the cockpit, I'd go grab it. But you guys, I want you to remember this. If you are interested in still wearing the hardware, RJ Simtech. Google RJ Simtech, and I'll try to remember to put a link to his site down below. I believe he has an Etsy page, and he has his own page. I recommend going to his own page, I believe. But he has both pieces of hardware that you need. His Track IR headset is by far the best one I've ever used. And I will say that as fantastic as Beam is, it truly is to me, it still is not quite where IR is, okay, as far as the tracking goes. And I'm going to tell you right now to take that with a grain of salt, as I am talking about a minuscule difference, and I have to hunt for it. And there are only certain very specific scenarios in which the webcam doesn't perform quite as well as infrared. Okay, now the drag about infrared is if you turn, for example, if you're wearing it on your left side and you turn too far and your face starts to block it, depending on where it is, you could lose tracking. Where here, doesn't matter, your face is relatively proportionate, or symmetrical, excuse me. So you probably won't see much of that in that aspect. So like I said, there are pros and cons to both. But RJ Simtech makes an absolutely fabulous, amazing headset and makes an even better Track IR infrared camera that is able to track at 120 FPS. So again, RJ Simtech. You guys Google that and you'll find his page. It is a bit pricey, and that's where we're going to talk about the balance. So getting into the price comparison for the pros and cons to using something like Beam versus the actual Track IR. And VR, we're not even going to throw into the mix of this because that's apples and celery. Like, it just doesn't work. I don't even know if that works. That's not even a fair comparison. It's like apples and sushi. It just doesn't work. So when I'm talking about the comparison in the hardware, we're referring to Tobii Eye Tracker. I think is a fair comparison, definitely because of the eye tracking and head tracking capability, much like Beam has, and then Track IR. So when it comes to the comparison, let's start with just Track IR. Track IR is going to be far more expensive. Doesn't matter which route you go. Even if you go with the natural point Track IR 5, I looked on Amazon this morning before making this video as a comparison, and the cheapest that I could find, a natural point, the actual developer, Track IR 5, camera and hat clip, which is epically stupid, and that you absolutely do need good lighting, but we'll get to that. I found it for $155. If you wanted the Pro Clip, which is actually the 3 LEDs that we were just talking about from Natural Point, Track IR 5, with the camera, you're looking at about $175. That's ridiculous. And the thing that I'll also tell you about, so coming back to quality now, all you need is a webcam and the software for Beam Eye Tracker. Natural Point 5, their Track IRs, and guys, I get it. There are plenty of you who have been using it for years and have no problem. The whole thing that got me, if you look on my video, I have multiple videos where I do DIYs, how to build your own head trackers, multiple videos, and then multiple videos with the RJ SimTech stuff. What got me started on all of that was that I went through not one, but 2 Natural Point Track IR 5 cameras, what actually goes on your monitor. Second one, reached out to them asking for some help, like this is the second one, and they basically blew me off. So Natural Point is, to me. And then the hack or the Pro Clip is extremely flimsy, and what happened with mine was the clip that actually clips it onto your headset, the tab broke off on it, so I had to tape it on. They're very flimsy, they're very light plastic, they're crap. Now, people can always say, well, if you take care of it, accidents happens, guys. Like, that's just such a stupid thing to say. I don't leave my stuff on the floor. I have everything hung up on the walls behind me. So before anyone says it, stop. Okay, just stop. Yes, there are some people who treat their stuff like trash. I don't. Anyway, as my kids will tell you, like, it drives them crazy. Anyway, I digress. So now we get into, like, for example, the RJ SimTech. If you were to go to RJ SimTech right now and you were to buy both the camera and the headset, which are fantastic quality, absolutely amazing quality, you'd be in excess of $200. Okay, I think $230 if I did my math right. Tobii Eye Tracker 5, $255. I remember $65, something like that. Call it $250 at the very least. $250. Actually, you know what? I think it's higher than that. Let me break that down for you right now. Let's just do that right now. Let's do it together here. Let's see here. Tobii. Who taught this guy to type? Tobii Eye Tracker 5. Let's see what it's running these days. There you go. Amazon as the seller. Amazon is the seller. $299 now. $300. That's $50 more than it was when I first got mine. Okay. And again, it's good hardware. It works well. It's absolutely fantastic. But $300. Okay. And this is the basic reason of why I am so hell-bent on showcasing Beam. Is because Beam is $30 US, you guys. $30 and a webcam. So if you were to do what I just did for that one, and you were to buy the software, and again, this is the Logitech 1080p Pro Stream, not high quality at all. There's not a high quality, and sometimes you can find this webcam for as low as $30. Okay, so let's call it on the high end though. You pay the $50 like I just did a couple weeks ago for my second one. $30 for the software, you're at $80 and you're done. Okay, and the nice thing about this particular webcam is it's got the little clamp on the back of it, and it's very easy to move between stations if you need to. I just didn't want to. The other really cool thing about this is you can mount it just about anywhere. I mean, it's got a foot stand. You guys have seen webcams. You can put webcams almost anywhere, on your desk, on your monitors, on a shelf. You can stand them up on something. You know, it's very easy to move a webcam around. It really is. And again, for laptop users, this is even better because almost all laptops, what do they have at the top of them? A webcam. So, the price, you can't beat it. Okay. And that's where I think my biggest value here is I think I've told you guys before, and I'm not going to go into the family history in this particular video, but I didn't come up rich. Okay, so every dime that I spend, I'm always looking for dollar to value. Okay, and I really look for it because again, I didn't grow up rich, and I've purchased products before thinking, oh, this is going to be so great, spending money that I had to wait and save up for, only to find out that I bought a piece of crap. And it's heartbreaking. So I'm always really anal about that. I'm really driven into price to value. Okay, so $80, let's call it, out the door if you don't already own a webcam, if you don't have access to a webcam, if you don't want to use your phone. And we'll talk about Beam with the phone too. Beam with the phone, I actually found to be similar behavior to the freeware. I actually wasn't crazy about it. It was better than the freeware. It was more stable. It was more accurate. It was a bit faster. So that tells me it's got to be something with the way the freeware software is optimized or lack thereof. Maybe it's per phone. I don't know. I don't know enough about programming especially on a phone, to know enough about that to speak on that. But I will say that it was better. I still don't recommend the phone. I don't recommend the wireless option, in my opinion. I would go with a webcam. I really would. Okay, I mean, you can probably go on eBay and find one for nothing. You know what I mean? Anyway, so those are my pros and cons. The only con that I really have to Beam are the fact that it needs the use of OpenTrack, and the only reason why I say that is there's a pro and a con to that too. So the con to having to use OpenTrack is because now you've got not one but two locations in which you have to configure your settings. This is actually the same reason why I hate using Steam VR. Okay, for virtual reality users. You have to, for example, me, I have a Pimax. So you have the Pimax software and you have Steam VR. Steam VR, you have to adjust the pixel density. You sometimes have to adjust the pixel density and quality settings inside your sim. You have to do it inside of Steam VR. And then with the Pimax, you have to do it inside the Pimax. So you got multiple locations that you have to make all the settings sort of work together. So the more pieces of software that you have to integrate or that are required to get the best experience, the less great it is. The pro to using OpenTrack is, I will tell you, the only thing that I configure inside of Beam is the eye tracking. Everything else I use with OpenTrack. Speaking to Toby for just a second, to correct myself on a previous video though for just a moment, is that I had said that the Toby software was required, and the problem with the Toby software specifically, if you install the Toby software, if you try to use OpenTrack or anything like that, it won't let you. You cannot have the Toby software installed and use another form of head tracking, eye tracking, etc. It craps out. Okay, so the other advantage to Beam is Beam, actually, I found that it worked just fine. But I couldn't have Track IR and I couldn't use OpenTrack. So take that as you will. For content creators, the other really cool thing about it, you guys, is that as a content creator, the camera that I'm talking to you guys on right now is the same camera that is going to be doing our head tracking in just a minute, our head and eye tracking while I'm recording, or if you're a streamer, you'll be streaming using the same camera, so you don't need any extra hardware. It really is. I'm going to tell you guys, content creators, it really is nice for content creators if you like to have your face on cam, okay? I'm still getting used to it. I haven't decided how I feel about having my ugly mug on camera, but anyway. So those are really my best pros and cons to it. I absolutely support the software, and I highly recommend it. Let's bring that back up here for just a second. I'm going to switch it over here to you guys. And let's crap some of these out here. Get that guy out of there. Get that guy out of there. Go on. And let's get, speaking of my ugly mug, let's get my mug out of here. Well, let's reduce my mug. Let's bring my mug down here. And we'll shrink me down. Okay. So the cool thing about Beam, and I will tell you guys, again, my pros and cons here, you have an option to buy it directly as a Windows desktop application, or you can buy it through Steam. I'm going to be blunt. I've said it a million times. I do not recommend buying it through Steam. I don't recommend buying anything through Steam if you can avoid it. And it's just because, it goes back to that having to rely on another piece of software in order to use function A. I don't like to do that. If I want to use Beam, I want to only have to launch Beam, not launch Steam as well. But if that doesn't bother you, It's available on Steam if you'd like to have. The nice thing about Steam, what Steam offers you guys, in case everyone's ever wondering, well, why they have it on both, Steam offers the ability to not have to manage the software. If there's an update, Steam will tell you and update it. If you do a new wipe of your computer, all you have to do is install and set up Steam, and all of your games and whatever are there, and you select what you want to install, right? So that's, in my opinion, that's really the only advantage to Steam. All right, so let's dump out of there, and now we're going to get into the full setup. I'm going to walk you guys through everything. Everything that I have is default. I'm actually going to clear my profile in OpenTrack, and we're going to start with a completely fresh setup so you guys can see everything that I do and how I set it up. All right, so what I've done here is I've actually uninstalled and reinstalled the software for you guys. So now we're going to go through the complete configuration together, and then I'm going to walk you guys through how I set everything up. So let's go ahead and get started. So first, let you know, gaming extensions activated. And let's come over here to the Beam software. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to calibrate. So I'm going to calibrate, and it looks like it's actually having trouble seeing my eyeballs. All right, so I'm going to close this window, and actually I'm going to go ahead. This is letting me know that the gaming extensions, this setting right here, is on. And it does walk you through. If you guys, OpenTrack right here. OpenTrack, increase immersion simulator games. Make sure that you guys are using this for DCS and things like that. Setup guide. It walks you through everything you need to do to get it up and running. But here we go. So show that again. Close. Now let's come down here. Reactivate it from here. And let's go calibrate. Okay, cool. You guys can see that. I don't know if you're going to be able to see the whole monitor, but we'll see. All right. So now I'm going to stare at the purple dot, and I'm going to click it. Now I'm going to go to the left. Not using my head. All right, all done. Groovy. And that's it for the calibration. Quick and easy. So now let's talk about some of the settings here. Let's go to... Oh, I got to remember what I'm looking for. It's been a minute. Settings. Ha! It's the one that says settings. All right, so just go for general. I mean, you have a couple of different options, you guys. I leave everything on high performance. I always do that. That's my computer's power plan. Okay, but let's talk about what I like. Okay, and the other thing I like is that you can mouse over everything and it tells you what it does. Okay, I typically leave all of this exactly as is. The only thing that I do, eye tracking responsiveness. You can tell this was stored in the either registry or in the app data folders. But I'm going to take this guy, and I actually want to bring it down a little bit further. It was actually still a little... I want a slight glance when I use my eyes. Just a bare minimum, very little drop. Okay, that's all I'm looking for. Okay, and you guys can see what I did with the eye tracking yaw range, eye tracking pitch range. If I turn, the higher the number, the more dramatic it will be. And that gets really frustrating. So I'm going to tell you that, at least for me. I'm not a big fan of eye tracking. I actually prefer just... Like I said, if I'm going to use my eyes, like if I'm looking down at the, I don't know, maybe over at the GNS 530 there on the screen, I want to be able to just glance over and have the camera just barely, just a little bit, right? But that's it. That's all I'm looking for. And that's it. That's all I do. I don't touch anything else. Everything else should be default. I think I might have increased these settings, increases the smoothness a little bit, but honestly, I wouldn't worry about it. Yeah. So everything else, I've never touched any of this. Absolutely any of it. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save here. And you have hotkeys that you can set if you want to. Oh, say there's your calibration settings, tray window, mouse jumping. Mouse jumping will actually... trigger the mouse jumping actions. It basically, where your eyes look, the mouse will go to. I tried it. Not for me. It's not for me. All right. So then in OpenTrack, what you need to do is come here, go to create a new empty config. Okay. I have named mine Beam Test INI. You hit OK and it'll pop up right here. Then you're going to go to options. Under here, you have your centering button. So I push this button, it'll center the camera. Push this button here. And these are just buttons on my HOTAS. And it will actually stop the head tracking altogether. So if you want to freeze the camera. Okay, and then we should be able to come over here. And we're going to find eyewear beam. And by the way, there's Tobii Eye Tracker for those who are interested, if you have the Tobii. And we can go eyewear beam and hit start. And there it is. It's already working. But now look at that. It is picking up everything that I'm doing. So now's the part where I show you guys how to configure it to where it's comfortable. So the first thing that you want to do always is find a spot that is relatively the center of your monitor. Make sure your head is nice and comfortable and center the camera. Okay, so now you have a centering point. Now I'm going to toggle the camera for a second. Okay. Oh, I centered it. I didn't stop it. Hold on. There. And there's the toggle. So now it doesn't do anything. So now what we're going to do is I recommend working on one axis at a time. It makes things significantly easier and not near as convoluted. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Output from the Options tab. These are everything that it is currently outputting. I'm going to disable the roll. I don't ever use the roll. At least not in flight simulation. I have never found a reason to want to do this in flight simulation. I just don't. It becomes more of a pain in the butt than anything, especially if you're still messing with a mouse. All right, and then you have your X, Y, and Z axis. That's going to be, don't mistake that for your pitch and your yaw. X is going to be this, your Y is this, and then obviously Z is in and out, okay? We're going to come back to them, but I'm going to disable them for now. And this just makes it so much easier. That way you don't have to worry about what axis you're fighting. And for right now, we're going to disable the pitch as well. So we're going to disable everything except for the yaw. The yaw is going to be our left and right. So now we're going to go here and we're going to go to mapping. And here's the nice part is you can do all of this while staring at the screen. So you want to ideally have this on the screen that you're messing with. So now I'm going to center, untoggle, and see now it's like all the way reversed. How funny is that? There we go. Okay. Now you can do one or two different things. Right now it is set for symmetric mapping, meaning it will be the same for both sides. Now you can see that that's reversed, right? So let's fix that first, because obviously the reverse can't happen. So we're going to come here, back to options, go to output, go to the yaw, and invert it. Okay, back to our mappings. There we go. And now it's a matter of determining where you want to go. This bottom line is degrees of rotation of your head. Okay, the bottom line is your head. The top is the output. How many degrees will the camera turn based on your degrees of head output or head turn, right? Head output. I know I'm a child. I'm sorry. So I'm going to turn it like this. Now, typically, a better plane to fly up for this actually would have been something like the Cessna 172. Because at this point, you know, what I'm thinking is I'm going to be looking over my shoulder like this, right? And I want to be able to have, you know, comfortably. And that's the nice thing about track IR or any kind of head tracking like this is you can curve it to where you want. And what I'm looking for is I want to be able to do this and be able to actually look back as if I was looking over my shoulder without actually snapping my neck here. I prefer asymmetric. I'm going to map one direction at a time. So there's asymmetric. So this is the left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click right here. This is where it's comfortable. I don't want to turn any further than this. Even that's kind of pushing it. I actually think, and if you just click it again or right click it, it'll go away. I actually want that to be a little bit smoother. So let's go. I guess right where it was fine. So here, but now watch this. I'm not going to move my head, but I'm going to click and hold this dot and I'm going to lift it up. And there now. And then we're going to sort of do the same thing. Like, okay, so here, that's a little, and that's probably pretty reasonable. We can go a little higher. So I'm going to click this one here. And bring it back there like you're yelling at the kids, right? And if you want, you can match the dot. But see, that's the other thing. So right when you start noticing the camera start to wig out or it just stops. But even then, look at that. Look how far it's tracking. At 100 degrees of my head rotating, which by the way is hurting my neck, it's still tracking it. So I want to go to about here. And you can create multiple points. So if you wanted to arc it, for example, let's say within this range, okay, like let's say we want to just be able to do something like that, right? We can create a dot here. And then same thing here. I don't know why we would. But let's say up until this point, we didn't want to go any further than that. You can set it to where these minor movements, you would just make a minor adjustment. And then until you exceed this realm, nothing would happen. You could also create a dead zone. For example, if we drop it all the way to the ground, the camera won't do anything until I exceed that. But I don't like that. I like to keep it as linear as possible. So I don't usually use dead zones. I just sort of learn to balance my head. All right, so there is our yaw. I'm good with the yaw for now. And we can just come right over here and go to pitch. The problem is the pitch is currently disabled. So let's go ahead and hit OK. Go to our options. And now let's work on pitch. And then recenter. Actually, nope. We need to invert that too. So I'm going to go to options, output, pitch, invert. Okay. And then I'm going to center my head just like we did before. There we go. Oh, that's weird. Now I inverted it. That sucks. We will uninvert that. There we go. All right, so again, I'm going to center my head. Whoa, did I? I did the wrong one. That's what I did. Yes, I did. Actually, that's really weird. Now I don't have to. That was weird. I don't know why all of a sudden I don't have to do that, but now that I added the pitch back in, we don't need to invert. I'm confused. Anyway, so don't feel bad because that one got me. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to add our pitch. And the pitch usually is pretty easy. But again, I like the asymmetric. Make sure you select pitch. So here we go. So up, looking over at things that I'd be looking at. Now, when you're making this, think about an airliner too. So like here. So I'm going to grab this. And pitch tends to be a bit more difficult to maintain tracking. But there we go. I'm happy with that. Let's look down. I am actually pretty content with down. I don't think I'm going to play with down at all. But the principle would be the same. If you want to adjust it or lower it, like if you decided, you know, I don't really need it going down that far, we could come down here. And actually, that is actually a bit exaggerated. No, it's not. But let's require a bit more head movement. And the more movement you require for the camera action, the more natural it's going to feel. Okay? So the more movement out this way, and then higher up, the more natural it'll feel. If you take this dot and bring it to the left, the less natural it'll feel and far more responsive it will be. Okay, so there's that. I'm happy with that. So now we're going to add in the z-axis. Well, let's do the x-axis. Oh, what did I do? Oh, X. There we go. All right, so there's our X already responding. So let's go to our X-axis. And let's go asymmetric here. So here, going this way. I'm going to keep it pretty low back here. Okay, so what I'm looking for is I want to be able to sort of do one of these numbers and not have the camera move all around. But if I make it dramatic, so now here I'm going to create another dot here, and we're going to start bringing this up. And here's a good example of a curve. So now it gets very, if I make it very intentional, so here I'm just, you know, nothing too crazy. And I'll actually bring this down even a little bit more. And I'm going to move this over so it matches where I'm comfortable. Okay. But now when I get into here, I want it to be extreme. So I'm sitting here, I'm comfy. I want to look over at the ADI over there. Okay, I come in here and it gets almost all the way over to the other side. And then this side, I mean, we're on, and you got to think about what you're flying and where you're flying from. This is actually pretty comfortable, but keep in mind, it will let you come out of the cockpit. Okay, so bear that in mind as you're setting up your left side. And I think, again, I'm going to keep that relatively low. Just minor movements. I kind of want to feel like I'm blocked. Now, if for any stupid reason I want to come out here, I'm going to create another dot here. And then if I want to come out here, we can make it stick our head out, right? So I don't know why I would, but like in here, now in this range, and actually what I think I'll do is just get rid of that guy. Maybe not. I want a little bit of movement just so it doesn't feel so unnatural, but yeah, that's a bit better. Okay, so have fun with it. Set up the curves the way that are comfortable to you guys, of course. And then finally, the last step for me is my zoom. So, sorry, you're going to go to options, and we're going to add back in the Z-axis. Oh, actually, I guess we want Y-axis too. There's that. Okay. So again, this one, I mean, be reasonable with it, you know. You can get pretty crazy. Again, I'm going to go to asymmetric. And maybe create one here. And lift it up just a little bit, right? And then on the down, this one you might want to add a little bit more on the down. For when you're wanting to get down low into things. So let's give an example here. So like, if we wanted to look at the radio master switches, right? You can just, and you're down in there. Now remember, we could zoom in here in a minute, but we don't have the Z set up. So let's do that now. So now we're going to go to output again, Z-axis. There it is. Whoo! Reset. We actually center the center. Head is relaxed. Center. All right. Moving on over to our Z-axis. And again, I definitely prefer asymmetric. So on the aft, I want very, very little. Very little. And I want it to be extreme in order to do it. Okay, now on forward, and actually that's pretty decent. So like, let's try our radio panel switch, or you guys know what I'm talking about. I'm getting tired. And there's that. Okay. And you could even look down. Okay, if you wanted to. You know, I never noticed the cup holder there, and I think it actually... Uh-oh. Good thing I'm not flying. Anyway. So there's that. And now you can very easily walk around the entire cockpit. Even right down. The circuit breakers are a little tougher. You'd probably have to get pretty extreme, but normally for the circuit breakers, what I do is actually create a custom panel. But anything else, and you guys can see that relatively, the camera motion is very good. Now, if you start noticing things like what we're seeing here, okay, as the camera's turning, reduce that x-axis. That means the x-axis is too sensitive in the lower ranges. Okay, but, you know, as far as the left side, yeah. So this is where x can be a problem. And that's just, I've even noticed that with Track IR. That's not limited to this. So that's where we'll want to go and figure out our x-axis and what is actually happening. So I'm going to get rid of that. So it's this side. So it's too soon. So what we can do here is bring that down. Oh, and see, it's turning my head. It's picking that up as a complete turn. And so for that, it gets tricky, and you absolutely have to sort of figure out what's going to work. It does require some playing around. The other alternative that you can do for that is increase the yaw. So if I didn't want to do that, and I can still get over there, but now it's not near as smooth, right? So if I want to keep that smoothness, all right, just trying to get it back to relatively where it was. What we can do now is you have two different options for solving that. Let's go back to the yaw. And what we can do is bring this in. And that will require less head movement for the same result. Okay. And then there, that issue is now eliminated. And so then it becomes just a matter of, all of these settings, I'm going to tell you right now, take time. Okay, if you're new to head tracking or eye tracking, it takes time to get used to it. It's weird looking with your head or turning with your head and keeping your eyes focused on the screen. I've been doing it for years now, but you get used to it. So anyway, that is how I set up my Beam eye tracker with the OpenTrack software. I recommend the OpenTrack. That's getting annoying. There we go. I recommend the OpenTrack because I think it is the easiest to configure. I think it is the most user-friendly. You guys saw how I did it. I actually put it on the screen that I am wanting to display. So if you're like me and you have multiple monitors, don't do that. Keep the mappings, when you're doing your mappings and tweaking, keep it on the screen that you're looking at. That way it makes it significantly easier. Excuse me. OpenTrack, the advantage to it is it works flawlessly with just about any gamer simulator that supports head tracking. Just like literally any gamer simulation. It doesn't seem to matter. If it supports Track IR, it supports OpenTrack. So OpenTrack is free. There's no additional cost. It's extremely lightweight, very, very configurable. As you guys saw, it's very easy to change settings, key bindings. There's a ton of key binding options in there that I don't even use that you guys saw. Really slick piece of software. So the fact that it integrates so well with Beam Eye Tracker is a plus. But anyways, guys, that's basically where I'm at. So if I have you guys sold, please keep in mind, there is a link down in the description to Beam Eye Tracker's the purchase site if you guys are interested. Make sure you guys use that link down below. It does help me out as well, and I'd appreciate it. As always, guys, I hope you found this video useful. Stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next one.